Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? It's Tuesday, November 1st. The bell ringer for today, I just asked you to fill in the blanks to talk about the zeros, that it's a solution or a root, and that they're also called the x-intercepts. For today, so we covered this on Monday. Today, we're going to talk about factors and finding zeros, which is the big idea number one. We basically said that if we have the factors, we can find the zeros. So let's see what that looks like in an actual problem. Let's see here. Find the zeros of the trinomial expression. So we've got x squared plus 2x minus 24. The first thing we need to do to find the factors is all we need to do, number one, set it equal to 0. So I literally just rewrote it, x squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. Okay, literally, all I did was add this equals 0 at the end. Okay, the next thing I need to do is factor it. Okay, we're going to spend some time on factoring and reviewing factoring, but it's going to take us a little bit of time to get there. So to go from, let me see, to go from here to here, let me erase this. To go from here to here and actually get the factors, what we need to figure out is what times what will give us x squared plus 2x minus 24. So let's take I'm going to take a little side note over here. And there's one method that I've used before. I particularly like it because it's pretty quick, but it's called the x factor. And you draw this kind of like x. And what you're going to do is you're going to look for two numbers that go here, such that when you multiply them together, you're going to get the numbers a times c. And when you add them together, you're going to get the numbers b. So where does the a and the b come from? Well, remember the standard form of the equation? Remember 8x squared plus bx minus or plus c? Okay, that's called the standard form, and we have equations written in the standard form. We can basically pull out the a, the b, and the c, which are the coefficients. So let's take a look for this case. We use the x factor. We're going to multiply up here and add down on the bottom. So our coefficient here, what's in front of that x squared? Well, we know it's just a 1. So that's going to be 1 times c, which in this case is negative 24. Okay, 1 times negative 24. That's easy. It just equals negative 24. And then our b term right here is positive 2. What's going on here? How do I close this? So that's our positive 2. So what we're going to do is look for two numbers that go here and here, such that when we multiply them together, we're going to get negative 24, but when we add them, we're going to get 2. So what two numbers can we multiply together to get 24? 12 and 2. If I use 12 and 2, that's 24, and somehow I can manipulate those such that I'll have 2 at the end. There's also 6 times 4 is 24, so there's actually two different ways to do this. Let's start with this. Okay, 10 times 2, no, 12 times 2. 12 times 2 is 24, so I need one of them to be negative. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. 12 minus 2 is 10, so that actually doesn't work. It's not going to be that one. So let's try another set. Let's try that 6 and 4. Okay, 6 times 4 is 24. If I do 6 times negative 4, that gives me 24. But 6 plus negative 4 gives me a negative 2. So look, 6 times negative 4 equals 24 negative. I forgot again. Equals negative 24. And then 6 plus negative 4, which is the same as saying minus 4, that equals 2. Okay, that's what we're looking for right here with that x factor. So that's how we get the factors. The factors are these two numbers here. The factors are x and negative 4. So that's where they got this factor, x plus 6 and x minus 4. Once you have the factors, you use the multiplication property. So the multiplication property says that if you have x plus 6 times x plus 6 times x minus 4 equals 0, it says that you can actually split those up and write them this way. X plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so you can break that up into two separate equations. Why does that look like that? That's supposed to be a 0. Okay, and now we want to solve each of these for x. So what does x need to be such that when I add them together I get 0? Well, that's an easy one, right? X negative 6 plus 6 will equal 0, so I know that x must equal negative 6. And what do I need to add here such that when I subtract 4, I'm going to get 0? Again, well, it's pretty easy. I know that if x is positive 4 and I subtract 4, I'm going to get 0, so x must be positive 4. The way we can do that algebraically is if we have x plus 6 equals 0, I know I need to subtract 6 from both sides, so that cancels out. And then I'm going to have x equals 0 minus 6 is negative 6. So algebraically, this is how I do it. X minus 4 equals 0. In order to get rid of this negative 4, I need to add 4 to both sides. That cancels. I have a 4 here. I bring my x down, and that's going to be 0 plus 4, which is 4. So see, I get the same thing. You can do it algebraically if you need to do the extra steps, or if you can figure it out just by looking at this, you can get to x pretty quick. Okay, so now let's see what these look like in practice. Fortunately, you don't have to factor these because I already did it for you, or the problem's already done it. There are going to be multiple problems like this on the 4-week exam, so please make sure you understand this. Given the factors, it is easy to find the zeros. So each one of these is a factor of the polynomial equation. So all we need to do to find the zeros is we set each one of these equal to 0. And we can do that because of the multiplication property. The multiplication property of 0. X minus 1 equals 0. Okay, this one kind of a little tough to do visually, so we might have to do it algebraically. X, I want to get rid of this positive 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Those cancel. I bring down my 2x, and then I've got 0 minus 2 equals negative 2. So what's next? I want to get rid of this 2 in front of the x, so I divide by 2. It's 2 times x. So to get rid of it or cancel it, I've got to divide both sides by 2. The 2's cancel. I bring down my x. Then I've got a negative 2 over a 2, which means negative 1. So my root, or my 0, for this first factor of 2x plus 2 is x equals negative 1. For the second one, let's take a look. X plus 3 equals 0. So what does x need to be such that when I add them together I get 0? So that's easy, right? X has to be negative 3. Negative 3 plus 3 equals 0. That's it. X minus 1 equals 0. What does x need to be so when I add them I get 0? Well, that's easy. X has to be 1 so that I can get 0. Algebraically, let's do it this way. I want to get rid of this negative 1 and bring it to the other side, and I do that by adding 1 to both sides. Those cancel, and I have x equals 1. See how I get that two different ways? You do it the way that works best for you. Number 2 here, let's see. I'm going to take each one of these factors, and I'm going to set each one, that equals that look terrible. I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0. So I've got x minus 3 equals 0, 3x plus 1 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, see if you can figure this out on your own. Take a minute, pause the video, see if you can write it down and write these in your notebook. Okay, and then I'll go over the answers right now. So let's take a look at this one. What does x need to be so that we add a number to -3 to get 0? Well, that's easy. X has to be +3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Let's see if we can do this one by inspection and not doing it algebraically. Okay. So I know 3 times something plus 1 has to equal 0. So what I can figure out here real quick is like whatever I multiply 3 by, the answer has to be -1, right? Because -1 plus 1 equals 0. So then I just have to figure out, okay, what times 3 will give me -1? Well, if I've got a +3 and I want to turn that into a -1, I'm going to multiply by -1 over 3. So when I do that, look what happens. These 3's cancel out, and I'm left with -1. So x must be -1/3. For those of you that struggle to see that visually or just do it by inspection, let's do it algebraically. 3x plus 1 equals 0. So we're just going to do the same problem in a different way. I need to get rid of this negative. I need to get rid of this 1 first, so I'm going to do that by subtracting 1 from both sides. Those cancel. I'm going to bring down my 3x equals 0 minus 1, which is -1. Now I need to get rid of this 3, which is being 3 multiplied by x. So to get rid of that 3, I need to do the opposite, which is divide both sides by 3. Those 3 cancels, and then I'm left with x equals, what do we get? -1/3. Okay, so there's 2 ways to get to the same answer. For this last one, x plus 1 equals 0, what does x need to be so that when I add them together I get zeros? Well, x has to be -1. Okay, -1 plus 1 is 0, so that's it. Should be very easy when you have these kinds of problems that are already factored for you. All you literally have to do is figure out what does x need to be so that when you add the numbers together, you get 0. Each one of these is a 0 or a root or a solution to the expression, to the polynomial. So now you know why we call them zeros. They're actually called zeros because we literally set them equal to 0 to find out what they are. Tomorrow we'll go over how to use the zeros to find the factors. So we'll do this on Wednesday. Okay. Thank you guys. I hope you have a good afternoon. If you do need any help, extra help, please come see me during tutoring hours, Wednesday morning from 8 to 8:30, or Wednesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon from 4 to 5. Okay. Thank you. We'll see y'all tomorrow.